You're listening to Two Bobs, conversations on the art of creative entrepreneurship with David C. Baker and Blair Enns.
Okay, I'm going to start this, right?
All right. Okay, let's
All
go.
right. Are you recording?
I'm recording. Why wouldn't I be recording?
Because somebody didn't in London one time, and hopefully we've learned our lessons.
Yeah.
And that was me, not you.
Yeah.
Just to clarify. Okay, so for everybody listening, this is going to be different. We both just kind of hit our record buttons as soon as we logged on. Usually we chat for 5 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, and then we'd realize, oh, shoot, we ran out of time to record an episode. But that was a good chat. So we're just starting them early. And normally, in fact, always, except for one time, we've always had a topic. And there's a designated questioner and a designated answer, sort of a Q&A, where I'm asking Blair about this topic, and I'll insert some things or the opposite. And it seems like some of the most popular episodes are ones where we just talk, and it kind of becomes a little bit more organic and less planned. So that's part of what we're trying to create here. We did this once before. I don't know exactly when. I think it was more than a year ago, and I don't remember the episode. At the time, I was terrified to record it, and I've never gone back and listened to it that I can recall. I can't do it. I do not want to hear what I said. Now it's not a terror of what to say. It's more a terror of, is there anything to say about a particular topic, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But the theme is really around, I think this is a word that you've used a lot, languishing. A lot of principals are going through the same thing, so we thought we'd just kind of talk about this in an unplanned sort of way. My wife, Julie, got me a Christmas gift, a pair of socks that says, if I stop drinking, I'll probably start murdering. And I had another friend send me a hat. I only got 3 Christmas presents. One from a daughter-in-law, because we kind of draw names, and it was a beautiful piece of wood I'm going to turn something with. And then the pair of socks, and then from a friend that said, I pretty much like one person and 3 dogs, and I think there's a typo. I don't know what the person is. Like, who is that?
Or who the third dog is.
Yeah. What's the message of those Christmas gifts, right? Anyway, that's my introduction. We're just going to talk about this.
Yeah. Languishing was the word of the year, I think. It was the number one most read and shared article of 2021 on the New York Times website was Adam Grant's piece. And the title, I'm looking at it right now, it's called, There's a Name for the Blah You're Feeling. It's called Languishing. And I'll read the definition of languishing. So he says, in psychology, we think about mental health on a spectrum from depression to flourishing. Flourishing is the peak of well-being. Languishing is the neglected middle child of mental health. It's the void between depression and flourishing, the absence of well-being. You don't have symptoms of mental illness, but you're not the picture of mental health either. You're not functioning at full capacity. Languishing dulls your motivation, disrupts your ability to focus, and triples the odds that you'll cut back on work. And I remember, this came out, I think it was April of 2021. I remember reading this. It resonated so strongly with me about what I was feeling. Yes, that's it. I'm not depressed. I'm not suicidal. I'm not like anxious. I'm just like feeling blah. And we thought we'd talk about that here because here we are. This is early in the new year. We're recording this in early January of 2022. I'm typically really excited about the threshold of a new year. I love the blank slate of a new year. I set goals. I like anything's possible. I get a good break over the Christmas holidays, and I charge into the new year with vigor and excitement. And that just has not happened for me this year. And you and I were checking in via text days ago, and it was like, okay, we're back to work. But it's like, it's still just blah. And it's...
Yeah. Do you remember what it felt like a year ago when you were entering 21?
No, I don't. Do you?
No, I want to coin a new term called, instead of SAD, seasonal affective disorder, I want to call it PAD, pandemic affective disorder.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like it changes the whole ushering in of time. And I don't know how to explain it because I haven't been as affected as most people. I've really been insulated from a lot of the impact of the pandemic. But it just feels like sort of what it feels like when you're trying to hold things together for a long time. let's say you're on a high school sports trip and you're the adult and something goes wrong and all of a sudden you forget everything in your personal life and you're trying to hold it together and think of everybody else and anticipate problems and solve them. And that's what leaders do, right? But leaders don't usually have to do that in a focused time over 2 years.
Yeah.
And you just lose this, it's a disconnectedness with life and what needs to happen. And then it manifests itself in different ways, often anger, impatience. Not me, of course, but other people.
Other people turn into idiots.
Yeah. And I don't think it's winter so much. I think it's just like, oh my God. Like last year we thought, okay, vaccinations, that's going to change a lot of things and we'll get loosened up. We'll go back to normal living and maybe we'll get along better. Maybe we won't be doom scrolling political rags every day. It just doesn't feel that way. Does it even feel like, this is something you and I were texting about, does it even feel like we would handle the next pandemic better than we did this one? Have we learned anything at all?
Oh, yeah. Like I was saying to you, after the first year of this, and when it was clear that we, the royal we, the greater we, all levels of government and individuals, various groups, we have not handled this well. We're not communicating properly. There's a void of leadership all over the place. After a year of that, I thought, well, this is the trial run of a serious pandemic, and we'll learn how to deal with the next pandemic through this one. I texted you the other day and I said, like, there's no way. We're even worse off. We are less prepared for a real serious pandemic than we were 2 years ago. So it's like we haven't even learned anything from this. I don't say that pointing fingers at anybody or, one of the things I really appreciate about living through a pandemic is there are a lot of people who have very strong opinions on exactly what we should do. And most of those people are people I wouldn't take advice on pretty much any topic, let alone health or public health.
Yeah, right.
But they're so adamant and there's so much outrage, and I'm just not going to traffic in outrage. I respect that these are complex problems and there have been screw-ups everywhere. There are all kinds of entities that we just don't trust the way we used to. We had higher regard for 2 years ago than we do today. But my overarching thought on all of this is it's really complicated. It's really complicated. It's been a 2-year expression of the Dunning-Kruger effect where people who know jack shit are just so adamant about what we should do.
Twitter epidemiologist.
So your point, like, have we learned anything? No. And so here we are, like we're 2 years in. So it's January 2022. I remember in March, almost 2 years ago, I remember talking about we're trying to predict, like, how long is this going to be with us? And I think I said, basically, I'm not planning to get on a plane before January of 2022.
And I laughed at you. I thought that was such a ridiculous, like, that's your typical overdo it in one direction or the other. And it turns out, damn it, you were right.
Yeah. Now, I did get on 2 planes in the last couple of months. And man, was that a great, let's talk about travel for a little bit, because I think a lot of what ails me and you is we used to live these lives of going wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted.
Right.
And I don't know about you, I'd like to hear your comment on this, but from my point of view, for the first 12 to 16 months, it was like, yeah, I'm really happy to be home. I looked at my calendar from the past few years and I thought, who is this person who lived this life? How did you travel so much? And the answer was I got sick all the time. So it was really nice to be home for a while. But then I'm so far past that point.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about travel?
Oh, travel's been such a part of my life that it's nearly consuming in a way. I mean, I don't miss the business travel too much, but I really miss the rest of it. Like when I think about Julie and I going to Austin and spending a week with some of our best friends from high school, and going to Chile with Jonathan for a week, and then going with both boys, Jonathan and Nathan, to Switzerland for hiking for a week, and meeting you in London and having an amazing Indian meal, and then meeting you in Australia and going to that bar that specialized in, what was it? Oh, those were amazing.
Oh, the Vermouth Bar in Sydney. I don't remember what it was called. Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
God, these are such 1% problems.
now you wish you hadn't asked me.
Woe is us.
Yeah. Meanwhile, people are struggling with their kids while they're trying to maintain a Zoom conversation.
Yeah.
But that's part of the issue.
Exactly.
Because you feel like it sounds so selfish to talk about what you miss when so many other people are so more deeply infected by it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the tension you have.
That's part of the languishing, is like, I've got these problems. Oh, I can't say them out loud because I'm so privileged to have these problems.
Right. Yeah.
But woe is us. So here we are, early January. We've been talking for 2 years about, like, when this thing's over, we're going to do something. We're going to throw a party and call it a conference, or we're going to do something else. So we've been talking about these idea of dinners. What do you think? Where are you today? This is just me and you talking about some of the ideas we've been kicking around privately.
Yeah.
When this is over.
Is it going to be over?
Yeah. My sense is there is going to be no feeling of a threshold being crossed or a finish line. It's just going to be like sloughing into a new normal that's just depressingly similar to what it is today.
It feels like there are some signals that are going to be real for us. So, for instance, when there's just not any question about kids going to school, now sick ones will stay home, but that would be a measure. Or when the boundaries between countries go back to the way they were 2 years ago. It feels like that's sort of what we're looking for, even though there'll still be COVID everywhere. But I am dying to do something with people. I miss being on a platform. I miss connecting with people. I miss laughing. I miss different cities. So it's going to happen. I don't know exactly what it will look like, but it's going to happen. But my own personal perspective is, and I'm not saying this is normative or what you should have, because we're all in different places and we have different family obligations and so on, but I've had both the first and second vaccination, and I've had a booster, and I'm not going to fight wearing a mask where they want me to. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but I'm just going to do it and be a good boy. But after that, it's like, fuck it. It's just whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to live. I could, but I don't want to. I don't want to live this life indefinitely. And so part of that, what that means is we need to start getting back together with some of our crew, like the people that we have always enjoyed being around as well, even if it's just impromptu. I'll bet we could, right now, we could pick a city and a date, and 100 people would show up. And it's not about money. It's not about making money. It's just about connecting, right? So, yeah, I definitely want to do it at some point.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I'm double vaccinated too. I'm getting my booster shot early next week. I do wish everybody would get vaccinated, but I'm not going to get on a stump about it. But my own motto, just for myself, is get vaccinated, live your life. I was saying I've been to a couple places, Scottsdale and Palm Springs, in the last couple of months. So being a Canadian, I'm going south and seeking sun. And it's been so great to be there. Getting there is hard, especially crossing international borders. The number of times you have to take tests, and everybody in kind of the whole travel testing supply chain, including the airlines and security people, they're all dealing with new regulations every day. So you go into an airport and you just see angry people everywhere. And I was on the verge of becoming one of those angry. I was feeling this anger well up as I kind of witnessed somebody's incompetence that almost forced me to miss my plane. But I didn't say anything. I just thought, you know what, she didn't appear to be having a rough day. She was enjoying herself a little bit too much. But I thought, and this is my thing as I get into my mid-50s now and moving to the second half of my 50s. I'm just not going to traffic in outrage. We all need to be better about how we talk to each other. But so I'm suppressing my building rage. I got through it. It's all fine. But it was traveling to some place in the same time zone as me. Now, there were 3 flights, and, given where I live, it's a long car ride. So I got to do the car ride a couple of days early, then I got to get a test, et cetera, et cetera. This isn't more woe is me. I'm just saying the actual travel part's quite difficult. But once you're there, once you're somewhere, it's really nice. Now, if you're in a country traveling somewhere else in that country and it changes from country to country, it's easier.
Right.
I don't remember if I said this on a podcast before, but I'm on the first plane that I've been on in almost 2 years. And on the television screen on the seat in front of me,
the 3.5-inch television screen.
Yeah, there's a Marriott Bonvoy commercial. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the sound on, but it's got beautiful pictures of people in beautiful places, like hugging, like people who haven't seen each other in a while. And it's a commercial about travel. And then the tagline comes up, and I almost sobbed. The tagline was, "Travel makes you whole again."
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, whoever wrote that line, like that's just when I saw it, I just thought, oh my God, I'm missing so much. If you don't travel a lot, your void is other things. But as two people who've spent 20 years circling the globe doing the work that we do, that I realized that, a lot of my closest friends like you are in different countries, let alone different. Like I've got my cohort of friends here in the village I live in.
Yeah.
But then, a lot of my closest relationships are spread out around the world. And these are people that I'm used to seeing, once or twice a year.
Yeah. I'm thinking of New Zealand friends that you and I both share, where one of their children died tragically from a health issue. And it's like, and you couldn't be there for them.
Yeah. You just want to get on a plane.
Yeah.
You're listening to Two Bobs, conversations on the art of creative entrepreneurship. Your hosts are David C. Baker, author, speaker, and advisor to owners of expert firms, and Blair Enns of Win Without Pitching, the sales training and coaching program for creative entrepreneurs. For more information, go to twobobs.com. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling a friend and rating us on iTunes. Thank you. Now back to David and Blair.
We've seen such interesting, deep, transformative innovation that have happened in service model delivery in our space, forced on us by the pandemic, and it's been really good. I don't think there's been anything negative about it. But I wonder if we've done as much of that around our own particular roles with our business as well. And thinking about at what point do you put your own oxygen mask on first in a time like this? Here's a personal example, maybe TMI, I don't know, but in my continuing quest to try to self-diagnose my mental problems. And the best thing to do is to go to Wikipedia. I don't know if you've discovered that, but then you'll always find something.
I've got your diagnosis right here. You're crazy. That'll be $100.
The other day I read the definition of what hypervigilance means.
Oh, yeah, you sent it to me.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, that is me, like always aware of threats and what's happening next and trying to predict the future. And one of our two dogs has that. Anything will set him off, where just the simplest noise, or there's a click on a lock in a door, and if a TV show is on and it sounds like that, he jumps up, And I think leaders, even if they haven't normally suffered by that, have been in a hypervigilance mode over the last 2 years, where they feel like they've got to hold this together. My clients and my employees and the finances and my family and my friends. And it's a little bit too much, but I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. You know what? I think Marriott's right. I think travel makes you whole again. I think that's what you do about it. As you're talking, I'm hearkening back to the beginning of the pandemic, and it was like crisis mode. I realized, oh yeah, I'm a wartime general. This is me at my best when shit has hit the fan. Half of the business is blown up. We don't know what's going to happen next. And I turn the emotions off and go into full logic mode. And it's like, this is me at my best. But then at some point, there's an emotional cost to that, right? Because you're basically suppressing these feelings.
Right.
And so we got through the crisis part, and then it's kind of back to normal. No, not even normal, like whatever the new normal is, like a realization that we're going to be okay. And then not only are we going to be okay, from a business point of view, this pandemic thing is the best thing it's the best forcing function that's ever been thrust upon me to force me to make some decisions. So it's like, not only okay, things are great. We had a great year. We had a really good year 2 years ago. We had a great year last year. So at some point, I get through the crisis mode, and then I'm just burned out. Like I took 3 months off. I think I talked about this story.
And I can attest to the fact that you did. You didn't do shit for 3 months.
And then in the time that I've been back, I haven't done much since. And so I have this sense of guilt because I've finally stepped up and delegated things that I should have delegated years ago. So I'm left with really just the things that I should be doing. Mm-hmm. But I look at how hard the team's working, and I feel a little bit guilty. I feel a little bit semi-retired right now. I'm joking that I'm just a writer and a podcaster. There's other things I do too, but I look at how hard the team's working, and I realize it's not like I carried anybody in the early days, but I think I got us through this stuff in the early days, and now I feel like they're carrying me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you more fully understand how you are feeling as a leader, everybody in a family, for instance, is also a leader of a different kind. And it helps you see how they are still dealing with their world and so on. And if I were going to go back and do something differently myself over the last 2 years, I don't mean from a business standpoint, but more from a personal standpoint, I would be a lot choosier about what I listen to or what I expose myself to, because when I contrast what I read every morning, and I'll skim, 7 or 8 publications, when I contrast that with the people I meet at the Farm Bureau or Target or something, it's different. These people don't seem to hate me as much as I thought they did. That would be the one thing I would do a little bit differently, and try to mix in more gratitude in the whole thing, because you can't say this about the 800 some thousand people in the U.S. who died alone and all the people that those impacted, but this could have been so much worse than it was, and we still have so much to be grateful for. That's the only thing I know of, other than travel, that kind of gets my head back in the right place. But I feel like, I don't know, it's like every time I walk by the flag, I unfurl it again. It's like I just know the wind's going to come back up, and it just gets a little bit tiring. I think I could probably last indefinitely, but it's going to take a lot more, I guess, intentional management of myself as a person if this is going to last much longer. And I think I'd probably give myself a B- or something through all of this. My clients, the ones I talk to, I'll have 5 or 6 phone calls a day, substantive phone calls, and they're pretty much in the same place. I'm just so proud of them, though. I'm just so proud of how well they've balanced all of the competing demands, and there's been no blueprint for this, right? Never. There's no blueprint at all. And this is where I think our industry, the leaders in our industry, really shine. They just figure out, they're kind of can-do people that have this endless optimism genuinely, and they just translate it to kind of solving the problems. But in that process, if you do that for 2 years, you've shoved down a lot of things that you would normally deal with in your personal life. And as a leader, you want to catch up. You don't want that pressure cooker to start leaking around the edges and then explode. You want to figure out what that means for you personally, just for the sake of the people around you, so that you don't start murdering when you quit drinking.
Part of this languishing effect for me is that it feels like every day is the same. And that's like why I can't get excited about the new year. It's like, okay, well, it's just going to be more of the same. And if you're a creative person, you thrive on variety.
Right.
And you hate routine. So the idea that you get up and it's like, more of the same today, going back to the mill to shovel coal into the fire, or whatever job you get that gives you a repetitive stress injury that a creative person couldn't do because it's too much of the same. There's not enough variety. Like, how are creative people in general? I put myself in that category, but I don't think of myself as one of the more creative people I know. I think of our clients, highly creative people. How are they handling with the fact that, well, tomorrow looks a lot like today?
When you talk with people, your clients and friends, how are they feeling about the business prospects of 22?
There might be a selection bias here. I've said this before, where we're talking to people who can afford training. So what does that mean? There might be a bias towards a positive attitude in my sample, but I just see so much positivity. I've seen so much business success in the last couple of years and so much optimism for the time ahead. I think, 2 years in, you've either adapted and you're thriving, or you've been put out of business, or you're still waiting for some sort of normalcy. And if you're waiting, it's like, you're done.
Yeah. I don't think people have a really clear idea, but they're cautiously hopeful and just praying that they're not going to be disappointed, but thinking that this is probably going to be a pretty good year. They're busy. They don't think things could get worse. They might stay the same for a while, but eventually they'll get better, and we should be back to normal sometime by the summer, something like that. That's just, I haven't surveyed anybody, but that's just the general consensus of what I have. But in the next 6 months, why are we even recording on this? Well, I'm not even sure, just honestly, except maybe there's some comfort in just talking about where people are apart from a very specific topic. Like, this is not an evergreen topic, but this is you're on your exercise bike, or you're walking, or you're driving to work, and we're just saying, we're kind of in the same place you are. Like, it's okay. The languishing that you're feeling is a natural reaction from trying to hold things together as a leader for a year or two. And it's okay. It's okay to be really destroyed inside or emotional by that. It's okay. And as a leader, you've got to connect with people who love you, who can be honest with you, maybe have nothing to say to you except they're in the same shit you are. There's a lot of comfort in knowing that you're not the only one that people are singling out, right? So hopefully there's some value in us just talking about what it feels like for us and what it feels like for the people that we talk with regularly. But I don't really have a message other than you've got to pay attention to these signals, and there's only so much you can do as a leader before you stop and do some self-protective things as well. I would hope that more people take sabbaticals this next year than they ever have.
Yeah.
I would hope they'd be more reasonable about the kind of time they need to spend. And overall, I think this is a really good thing for our industry in spite of the personal pain that it's caused.
Really?
Yeah. I think we're so much clearer in what we want to do.
Yeah.
We're not lying to ourselves the way we were about who a good client or a bad client is. The water table has dropped, and now we've seen the wrecks under the surface, and they're gone from the staff. We understand our financial performance so much better than we did before because we've looked into it. We've had to look into it. We couldn't just sloppily keep saying, well, there's money in the bank, we must be fine. We're having to really track it. I don't want to minimize the personal pain, but I think this has been really good. This has been sort of a business plague that has spread like wildfire through this industry, and the firms that are still here are so much stronger and better off and being led by better people as well.
Yeah. And the forcing function of having to make decisions that we deferred for so long or ignored. It's been beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not ending this recording until you and I agree on where we're going and what we're doing. And are we inviting anybody? The hardest part is it's so hard to make plans.
Right.
You and I have been talking for a year about, well, maybe in 2 months we can go here. And
so maybe we should set a tentative time and place and then say, okay, we'll provide final confirmation 2 weeks beforehand or something.
Can we do something as soon as March?
Oh, yeah.
Mid-March.
Which would be the 2-year anniversary of when you and I were doing a live podcast recording in front of an audience in New Orleans at this amazing theater.
Oh, yeah.
For the Bureau of Digital people, Carl.
You want to go to New Orleans?
Well, I think I'm more flexible than you are just because it's so much easier for me to travel anywhere. You've sometimes got to drive 8 hours before you get on a plane, so you need to pick where.
I'm kind of thinking Austin.
That would be a great choice. Probably something fairly central, big city, easy to fly to, so like a Denver, Chicago, Austin. Austin would be awesome.
Yeah. Austin in March. What are we going to do? Are we going to actually have an event with curriculum or?
No, I can't do that. Maybe we just have, what do you call that thing where everybody stands up for just a couple minutes and makes a presentation about what's going on at their firm, and then the next person gets up, really quick turn. Not Machu Picchu, that's the...
Pechacucha?
Yeah. Something like that. This is why I'm not in charge of it. It has to involve really good food, some drink for sure, maybe some other things, who knows. And then just a chance to connect with people, and no assholes are allowed. I've got a whole list we can cross-check against.
Okay, that's probably enough for now. I like Austin, middle of March. We should put our friend Mark O'Brien on this because he loves to organize events.
Yeah, and he knows food and drink, yeah.
And I don't think he listens to this podcast, so he doesn't know he's been nominated for this. We'll reach out to him.
So, and for those of you who are regular listeners and you think that we are headed down a languishing path by being very disorganized, we promise we'll only do one of these once a year at the most. So we'll be back with a fantastic topic right after this.
We'll be back with substance.
Thanks, Blair.
All right, David, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Two Bobs with David C. Baker and Blair Entz. Subscribe and learn more at twobobs.com. That's the number 2, BOBS.com.